Go.
Okay, so it is Sunday morning. The Packers are playing, so it's halftime. And we thought that we'd get this little interview in this morning. So I am here with Miss Christine, and I'll let you introduce yourself and kind of maybe tell us a little bit about your background and why you are with us today, why I want to interview you.
So my name's Christine Eder. I'm a school psychologist. I work at Copper Country ISD up in Houghton, Michigan.
Yeah, awesome. And so a child psychologist and being with my Coping Crew series. Obviously my Coping Crew series features fears, phobias, anxieties, so we'll get into that a little bit. But where did you go to school? Like where are you from and what's your background education?
Yeah, so I was born in Syracuse, New York, and then I lived in Bradenton, Florida, Ann Arbor, Michigan, and now we're in Springfield, Illinois. I went to undergrad at GVSU, Grand Valley State University, double majored in psychology and exercise science, and I went to grad school at Andrews,
Okay.
where I received both my master's and my EDS.
Yeah, the EDS was new to me. So last night when we had a chance to talk, the EDS, one thing that I thought was interesting is you were saying, even if a child is clinically diagnosed with their doctor as maybe having autism, if they come to school, you can't recognize that same diagnosis. Is that true? You have to have a school psychologist.
We have to see a school-based need for the diagnosis of autism. So
Okay.
we have school-based autism and not. So
Okay.
if we diagnose them with autism, they may not be in the outside world, but for the school-based, we have to see if they have a need in the school. So
Okay.
they need it either because of academics
Okay.
or social emotional. They have trouble with friendships or other things
And not
that
just
affect them
autism,
educationally.
Yep, lots of it. Okay. And so there's obviously a need nationwide to be discussing mental health in youth and in children. How many, just out of curiosity, like how many school psychologists are at your GISD or counselors? Like you obviously have a great background and I'm sure they're lucky to have you, but from what I'm hearing, there's definitely a lot of shortage, especially in the schools.
So we have 4 school psychs at our ISD,
Wonderful.
and then we currently only have 1 school social worker,
Okay.
and we have quite a lot of mental health providers,
Okay.
but they more help with general ed population. So if a kid just had their house just burnt down or they just lost a parent,
Okay.
we're gonna bring in the mental health providers to do some counseling.
Awesome.
Or
That's-
one of the other students in the school dies, we'll
Right.
bring them in for some counseling.
Oh, that's nice to have those resources, and I
Yes.
think that's very important. So you all collaborate and work as a team. What grades do you typically work with?
So I can work from anywhere from 0 to 26.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wonderful. So, I mean, I know that in talking to you a little bit before this interview, I was kind of alerted to what it is that you actually do. And I know that you do a lot of testing. So you must get a referral from somebody who maybe sees that a kid, in particular, I'd like to kind of gear towards anxiety. So you might have a teacher that's just saying this kid just seems like he or she is struggling a little bit. And then you would maybe observe or have other people observe and maybe do some testing to see, if there's some ways that you can help them more. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, so
Okay.
if their anxiety is bad enough, they could qualify for special education as other health impairment.
Okay.
But it has to be impacting them educationally to qualify.
Okay.
If your anxiety is so bad that all you're focusing on is the anxiety and you can't do your schoolwork, you can't
It's
focus.
debilitating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would be a disability.
Yeah.
And so we can put some stuff in place to help.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That makes me really happy to hear. And there is definitely a spectrum of anxiety, right? I mean, like I'm scared of snakes, that's a phobia, right? Is it debilitating? Well, maybe. But yeah, there's definitely a spectrum there. So could you, like, what then, let's say that somebody does qualify, then they would, what kind of extra resources could somebody have, at your school then? If they're diagnosed as an other health, then they can have special ed classes where they get a little bit slower one-on-one time and a little bit more focused on helping them.
Yep. So they could get resource room. So that would be, they may be pulled after an hour a day to be in the special education room, help fill those gaps that they have.
Yeah.
They could also get social work services. So have someone come and talk to them once a week, every other week, just about their fears, anxiety, how to help cope with the fears and anxiety.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think that there's kind of a stigma. Well, obviously mental health, we're trying to make it less of a stigma. I think special education has also kind of had a little bit of a stigma. And, there's just such if there's resources out there that can help you, and if you're not getting the quality education and you're not able to focus on your studies because there's something else going on, and there's teachers and staff trained that can kind of help bridge that barrier, I mean, take advantage of that. That's wonderful.
Exactly.
What would a test involve, like any kind of test that you give? Like, can you explain that process of testing a child for anything? What exactly, I mean, is it a written test? What kind of test is this?
So we first need to have a referral either from the school or the parents, and then we have 10 days to write a read, which is just the plan of what tests we want to give, and like just showing the background information, teacher information, and parent information. So we have 10 days to write that. Parents have to sign agreeing to the plan.
Okay.
And then we have, once they sign, we have 30 school days to test. So some tests we may do are achievement tests, looking at reading, writing, and math.
Okay.
So some of the reading would be just a list of words, seeing what words they can read, phonological processing type of stuff, phonological awareness. We also look at nonsense words, so words that they don't know, but using their phonics skill can sound out. Then we look at math, we look at more story problems, and then just regular 9 times 3 type problems.
Okay.
So that would be math
Computation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we look at writing and spelling.
Okay.
And
So
then
are
we
they-
also have cognitive tests.
Yeah, can you explain the cognitive testing? And
Yeah.
cognitive behavior therapy is kind of becoming a more popular term in the psychology world. I know myself, I've gone to counseling for my anxiety, and she specialized in a lot of the cognitive behavior approach, and it's clearly helped me a lot. So can you kind of touch on the cognitive behavior training or testing, therapy?
So the cognitive tests are a little different than CBT.
Okay.
So cognitive tests are just looking at your working memory, processing speed.
Okay.
So those different cognitive areas.
Okay.
But CBT is kind of retraining your brain to look at things in a different way.
Okay. Yeah, definitely, kind of distracting and getting rid of old habits.
Yes.
That's kind of cognitive behavior therapy. Like,
Or just thinking of things a different way. Maybe someone's been picking on you every day and you think they just hate you, but maybe there's a different reason behind it. Maybe they're jealous of you.
Yeah.
Or there's different perspectives.
Right. So would you have advice for children who are in school and maybe feeling different feelings? I mean, would you suggest they reach out to a friend, a parent, a teacher, a social worker, or what would be your advice to children who maybe are feeling like they're struggling and nobody's noticed yet?
Yeah. So definitely talk to us.
Right.
And they're all here for you.
Right.
Everyone is here on your side and wants to see you succeed.
Absolutely.
But we don't know what's happening unless you talk to us.
And when I go into the schools, one of the things that is kind of a parallel to that is my dog, right? Because my dog, we talk about pet therapy, and we talk about how dogs also get anxious and nervous about things, but they can't talk. So what signs can my dog show me? You know, maybe his tail's between his legs, maybe he's panting or he's shaking, and how can I be watching those cues? And then then as a follow-up to that, what can I do to be helping him? Maybe we need to remove him from the situation for a little bit, take a walk, maybe he needs a drink, maybe he needs positive words of encouragement. Like, hey, you're being a good boy, you're good. So I think like even just translating pet therapy into the human world can definitely help. So kind of on a more personal note, is there any anxieties, fears, phobias that you have that you've struggled with?
So I am a perfectionist and don't want to fail. So
Yeah.
just knowing that you're not going to be perfect all the time. You're going to fail, and that's okay.
I just had a teacher ask me, she said, I have so many kids in my class that are afraid of making a mistake. She said, will you please write a book that will somehow tell kids it's okay to not be perfect? It is. You know, you see that a lot even in the high school, these graduating juniors and seniors that they're striving for that 4.0 and they've got to get their volunteer hours and they're applying for these scholarships and they want to be in athletics and in clubs and you know, they're still trying to work jobs or maintain a social life, and they're trying so hard to be perfect, and at some point when we all run full throttle like that, I feel like we crash.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that crash can be really hard, you know? Yeah. And then, so like, what do you do? Like, okay, you're aware of this, you know that you like to be a perfectionist. What kind of things maybe help you cope with, you know, obviously whiteout, you know, definitely probably good for a perfectionist, but what other things, like, would you do some of that cognitive behavior, like, this is okay, you know?
And knowing
Self-talk.
that everyone makes mistakes. I know that I need to put my schoolwork away at a certain time. I can't just be working on everything until 11 p.m. every night, or else the next day I won't be charged enough to give my best effort for the kids.
Yeah, and sometimes even just making a list and writing things down, it kind of gets it out of your head, onto paper. We've got a coping crew journal that's coming out in about 2 weeks, and that's why I'm really talking to kids about too, the power of writing as therapy, music as therapy, art as therapy. Sorry, I'm losing my voice here. So are there any like specialties? Now this is kind of what your job is, whether you stay in this position or not. Is there any like one thing you really like to focus on with your degree?
So I really just like the testing of the kids. I like the detective work. You look at all the pieces, their achievement testing, their cognitive testing, the interview, and kind of put the pieces together to figure out how to best help the kid. And I like that part of the job the most.
Nice.
It's hard because after I test them, after the IEP meeting, I typically don't see the kids anymore. So that's probably the hardest part because you don't get to see the outcome. And see if everything...
You made a difference.
Yeah.
You just have to hope you did.
Yes. Yeah.
What is the reception from the parents usually? I mean, do you get some that really resist and they're kind of in denial, or do you get mostly support and encouragement? Like, we've noticed some of these same things and we're happy to...
It's mixed. Some parents don't want their kids to be in special education at all. But some parents really just want anything to help their kids succeed.
And that goes back to that stigma of, you know, special education. It really, we need to work to change that, you know? You almost wish you could even name it something different, you know?
And the resource room, they're typically only pulled out 1 hour a day. They're with their general ed peers.
Yeah.
At least 80% of the day.
Yeah. I mean, integrating, we have a group of, I guess, I don't like to call special needs, but we have a group of guests that come to the studio, and I'm really hoping instead of just private classes that we can integrate them more with our regular classes, because they're amazing and talented and unique individuals. It's incredible.
And they have a different perspective on things that they can teach
You.
everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one of the things that I love at the studio is this group of individuals. They outwardly express every inward emotion that they're feeling. So if they're having fun, they verbalize it. You know, they if they're not having fun, you hear that too.
Yeah.
But you know, hopefully they're having fun.
Yeah.
When I was younger, they had classes that were called gifted and talented, and kids were separated, and they, you know, it was kind of like, well, you knew that if those kids had that teacher, she was the gifted and talented teacher. So it almost made you feel less smart because they were placed in like the smart group, you know? And I really think that like that stuff needs to get out of schools. Like we have special ed, we have gifted and intelligent, we're still united as one, right?
Yes.
And I think that it's okay to need that extra help. And
I think everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. Not
Yeah.
everyone would have the same strength and weakness as others. They
yeah.
like to learn from others.
So after you do testing, it's never just a one-on-one decision either, right? I mean, you are involved with a peer that make decisions as a whole, even like disciplinary issues. I know we talked yesterday, and there's been some disciplinary things that have come up at school, and you meet as a collaborative team, and you kind of vote on what the best approach is going to be for that kid, which I think,
Everything's a team decision. Yeah.
yeah,
Because different people have different, see things
Tactics.
differently,
Right.
yeah, and have different specialties too.
right, yeah, I love that. You know, I think that it solidifies things a little bit more. Like if it was my child too, and it wasn't just one person trying to label my child, so to speak. You know, that this is a team of professional individuals who are recognizing the need for extra help for my kid. And so I think that that's really, you know, really awesome. I know I was talking to somebody who was explaining this autism test, and it was in a younger child, and they said, you know, they, for instance, will play with the phone, and a lot of times it's just watching them interact and watching them, and you know, I think that I can see where the testing might be kind of fun and kind of neat, you know, but you probably get close to some of these kids through this testing process. You really get to know them, and you know.
Yeah. The ADOS, we typically use to diagnose autism, school-based autism, and we're looking at how they interact with other people, if they can share enjoyment together,
Yeah.
Ask for more.
Yeah, nice. And I think that, do teachers actually train to watch for things? I mean, I'm not an educator, obviously, but let's take a simple phobia, fear of your first day of school. You know, that's a very common one. Kids are afraid of that separation anxiety, fear of fitting in, you know, things like that. Do teachers take any extra classes, either in college or as follow-up, or work with you guys, or to kind of know when, like, what to look for and how to help somebody?
So some colleges do,
Okay.
but some colleges don't.
Okay.
And there can be personal PD days
Yeah.
that they could do that, but a lot of times it depends on the school.
Right.
What
Right.
type of PD they want to have the
Yeah.
teachers involved in.
You're right. Yeah, and you know, some kids, they just get so quiet and they're having that inner struggle. And so I think like it's great if teachers can recognize that, but I think advocating for kids to be able to verbalize what they're feeling internally is just really going to be important. That's where my specialty, that's where I like to come in and say, you know what, we all have a fear, we all have a phobia. I went into a second grade classroom and instantly said, who here is afraid of needles, before I read a book? Everyone raises their hand, right? So it's okay, you know. But thank you so much for coming. Is there anything else that you want to get in I haven't asked, or you want to to shed some light on, or
I don't think
no?
so.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
Okay, great.